My fiancé declared, "I'm not moving to that boring small town for your job." I replied, "I understand." Then I took the promotion anyway and moved alone. When he discovered my boring job paid me $600,000 per year, his reconciliation messages started coming. My name is Brianna Thompson. I'm 32 years old, and at the time, I honestly believed I was about to marry the man I would build the rest of my life with. His name was Derek Hartley. He was 29, charming in the way people notice immediately, polished in the way that makes strangers trust him before he has earned it. We had been together for 5 years, engaged for 1. We lived in a major city, in one of those bright apartments with floor-to-ceiling windows, overpriced parking, and neighbors who smiled like everyone was competing for the same invisible prize. Derek worked in interior design. He cared about texture, lighting, restaurant openings, gallery events, who was seen where, and whether a place had the right energy. I was a senior software architect at a tech company. My world was quieter. Code, systems, teams, problems that didn't care how expensive your shoes were. We were comfortable. I made around $120,000. Derek made about $80,000. We split bills, planned vacations, went to trendy restaurants, and talked about a wedding that always seemed to get more expensive every time Derek opened Pinterest. From the outside, we looked successful, but inside, I had started noticing something I did not yet have the language for. Derek loved our life when it reflected well on him. He loved saying, "My fiancé works in tech," at parties. He loved the apartment, the restaurants, the photos, the version of us that looked impressive. But whenever my work demanded sacrifice, patience, or attention, he treated it like background noise. Then last March, my company approached me with an opportunity. They were opening a new R&D facility and needed someone to lead the entire engineering division. Not assist, not manage a small group, lead it. The catch was location. Millbrook, a town of about 30,000 people, 3 hours from any major city. The compensation package almost didn't look real when I first saw it. $450,000 base. Bonuses up to $150,000. Full relocation. Equity that could become life-changing if the facility succeeded. And the cost of living was nearly 60% lower than where we lived. I remember sitting in my car after the meeting, staring at the offer letter on my phone, unable to stop smiling. For the first time in years, I saw a future that didn't feel like survival dressed up as success. A house, space, savings, leadership, a chance to build something from the ground up. I came home that night excited, nervous, almost shaking. Derek was on the sofa, scrolling through design blogs on his iPad, one leg crossed over the other, barely looking up when I walked in. "Babe," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "I got offered an incredible promotion today." His face brightened for half a second. "That's great. When do you start? We should celebrate." "There's something we need to talk about first." That made him lower the iPad. "It's in Millbrook." His expression changed immediately. "Where?" "It's a smaller town about 3 hours north, but the opportunity is huge. They want me to lead." "Wait." He laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "You're joking, right?" "No." "You want us to move to some random town?" "I want us to talk about it." "There's nothing to talk about, Brianna." He sat up straighter, already offended, as if I had suggested we live in a cave. "My entire career is here. My clients, my network, our friends, everything." "You could build a new client base. Interior design exists outside the city." "In a town of 30,000? He gave me this small, cruel smile. "What am I supposed to do? Redesign barns?" "That's not fair." "No, what's not fair is you even considering dragging me to the middle of nowhere because your company waved a title in your face." I stood there with my work bag still on my shoulder. He had not asked the title. He had not asked the salary. He had not asked what the job meant to me. He had already decided. "Derek, this is division head. It's a massive career jump." "I don't care if they make you queen of the computers. I am not moving to that boring small town for your job." The sentence landed so cleanly that for a second I stopped feeling anything. I tried again. "The salary is—" "I don't care about the salary." He waved his hand. "Money isn't everything. Quality of life matters. Financial security is quality of life." "No, quality of life is culture, friends, restaurants, energy. We have a life here. We also have rent we complain about every month." "That's normal. Everyone complains about rent." "Not everyone gets a chance to change their entire future." He stood up then, angry because I was not folding fast enough. "If you loved me, you wouldn't even consider this." I looked at the man I was supposed to marry. The man who had spent months choosing linen colors for our wedding tables, but could not spend 5 minutes asking what this opportunity meant to me. I said quietly, "I understand." His shoulders relaxed like he had won. "Good. Now can we please drop this?" I nodded. But I didn't drop it. That night, while Derek slept beside me, I opened my laptop in the kitchen and searched Millbrook. I expected gray streets and nothingness because that was how he had described it. Instead, I found a charming downtown, restored brick buildings, parks, lakes nearby, farmers markets, outdoor concerts, new restaurants, and a growing tech scene because companies like mine were moving operations there. Then I searched housing prices. A 4-bedroom home with a yard cost less than a 1-bedroom condo in our city. I sat there in the dark, looking at a future Derek had rejected before even seeing it, and wondered if he had rejected the town, or the version of me who might become bigger than the life he wanted to control. I didn't argue with him again after that night. I had finally understood something I should have seen earlier. He wasn't disagreeing with me. He was dismissing me. Every time I tried to bring it up again over the next few days, the pattern repeated. "We already decided. Stop trying to convince me. Why are you so obsessed with this?" Obsessed. That word stayed with me because I wasn't obsessed. I was hopeful. So instead of pushing him, I started preparing quietly. At first, it was just research. Then it became deliberate. I made spreadsheets, compared cost of living, projected savings, calculated what 5 years in Millbrook would look like versus 5 years in the city. I mapped out what that equity could become if the facility succeeded. The numbers weren't just better. They were life-changing. Meanwhile, Derek kept living like nothing had happened. Brunch with friends, late dinners, complaints about clients, discussions about which restaurant had lost its edge. He moved through our life like it was already decided, like I had already chosen him, like I always would. A week later, he brought it up himself, but not to me. At a dinner party, 8 people around a long table, wine glasses, laughter, that familiar city noise humming underneath everything. Natalie was there, Jessica too, people Derek trusted more than he trusted me. "Tell them about your little career crisis," Derek said casually, cutting into his steak. I looked up. "It's not a crisis." "Oh, right," he smirked. "Your big opportunity in, what was it, Mill something?" "Millbrook." "Yeah, apparently she wants us to move to a town with more cows than people." A few people laughed. Not loudly, but enough. I kept my voice steady. "It's actually a growing tech hub. My company is opening a major R&D facility there." "Oh, please." Jessica waved her hand. "Every company says that about random places to get people to relocate." "She'd die of boredom in a week," Natalie added, glancing at Derek with a grin. Derek laughed. "That's exactly what I said." I looked at him. He didn't look back. "And what about you?" I asked quietly. "Would you be bored or just embarrassed?" That got his attention. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you haven't even looked at the town. You just decided it wasn't good enough." "It's not about the town," he snapped. "It's about our life. Everything we built is here." "Everything we built, or everything you like showing off?" The table went still for a second. Then Jessica leaned back. "Wow, defensive much?" "I'm not being defensive," I said. "I'm being realistic." "No," she replied. "You're being selfish, expecting him to give up everything for your career." "I didn't expect anything," I said calmly. "I asked for a conversation." "You got one," Derek cut in, and we said no. As if his decision had automatically become ours. I looked around the table. 8 people. None of them had asked a single question about the opportunity. Not one had asked what it meant for my career, my future, or our future. They had all accepted Derek's version because it was easier, because it fit the narrative they liked. "Funny," I said softly. "How expecting a woman to consider her own future is selfish, but expecting her to stay exactly where she is isn't." "That's not what anyone's saying," Natalie replied quickly. "Isn't it?" Derek leaned forward, his voice low now. "You're making this into something it's not." "No," I said. "I'm finally seeing it for what it is." "And what's that?" "That you already decided, and you didn't need me to agree. You just needed me to comply." For a breath, I thought maybe he would hear it. But instead, he leaned back, picked up his glass, and smiled like the moment hadn't mattered. "Relax, Brianna. It's not that deep." The table laughed again, and this time I didn't try to stay part of it. Later that night, back in our apartment, Derek acted like nothing had happened. He put on music, opened a bottle of wine, tried to pull me into a normal evening. "Don't be like that," he said when I stayed in the kitchen instead of joining him. "You're taking things too seriously." "I'm not taking anything seriously enough," I replied. He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've been pretending we're having the same conversation." "And we're not?" No. I met his eyes. You're deciding, I'm adjusting. That's called compromise. No, I said quietly. Compromise requires both people to move. He shook his head like I was being unreasonable. Brianna, you're overthinking this. It's a simple choice. Stay here, keep building what we have, and be happy. And if what makes me happy isn't here, he didn't hesitate. Then you're choosing wrong. There it was. Clear, simple, final. Not what makes us happy. What makes him comfortable? I didn't argue, I just nodded once. And that night, while he slept again, I made my decision. The next morning, I called my boss. I accept. 6 weeks to transition. 6 weeks to move. 6 weeks to quietly untangle a life that, I now realized, had never really been shared. I opened a new bank account for the relocation package and the new salary. Started looking at housing options in Millbrook, rentals first, and maybe purchases if the place felt right. Filed the paperwork, set timelines, created a plan. For once, I stopped asking for permission to choose my own future. 3 weeks in, Derek noticed. We were sitting across from each other at dinner when he frowned. What's wrong with you lately? Nothing. You've been distant. Just work. Well, stop moping, it's annoying. That simple, careless sentence told me everything. Annoying, like my distance, my internal shift, none of it mattered unless it affected him. I looked at him across the table, and I didn't see the man I was going to marry. I saw someone who had already decided what my life should look like and didn't care if I agreed. I wasn't walking away from us. I was walking towards something real, and he had never even tried to follow. I told Derek 2 weeks before I left. It was a Sunday morning. No distractions, no friends, no audience. Just the two of us. We need to talk, I said. He didn't even look up from his phone. If this is about that small town thing again, I accepted the job. His head snapped up. What? I'm moving to Millbrook in 2 weeks. For a second, he stared at me. Then he laughed. Very funny. I'm serious. The laughter disappeared. You can't be serious. I've already signed the contract. I've found a rental house. Movers are scheduled for next Monday. The color drained from his face. Brianna, we're engaged. And you made it clear your life here is more important than our future together. That's not what I said. You said you wouldn't move for my job, or any job. You wouldn't even discuss it. Because there's nothing to discuss, he snapped. You're throwing away everything we built for some job. It's not just a job. I don't care if they made you CEO. I'm not moving. I know. The words landed heavier than anything else I'd said. That's why I'm going alone. He stood up slowly, like the room had shifted under him. You're choosing a job over me. You chose your lifestyle over us, I replied. I'm just accepting that choice. That's not fair. It's accurate. His hands clenched. If you leave, we're over. I know. The second time I said it, something broke in his expression. You're really going to throw away 5 years for money? For a moment, I almost told him the full number, the $600,000 total compensation, the equity, the life we could build. But then I remembered. He never asked. Not once. Not even now. It's not about money, I said. It's about respect. He shook his head, pacing now. This is insane. You didn't even think about me. I did. That's why I tried to talk to you. You tried to convince me. I tried to include you. There's nothing to include me in if the decision is already made. That's exactly how I felt. That stopped him. Then the anger came. You went behind my back. I made a decision you refused to even consider. We were supposed to decide together. Then you should have shown up for the conversation. You're twisting this. No, I said. I'm seeing it clearly. He laughed again, but there was no humor in it. So that's it? You just leave? I moved forward. And I'm just what? Collateral damage? You're the person who made it clear you didn't want to come with me. That hit, but instead of sitting with it, he pushed harder. You're selfish. I'm choosing myself. You're destroying everything? I'm refusing to stay in something that only works if I shrink. His voice dropped. You think you're going to be happy out there? Yes. You think some random town is going to give you a better life than this? I think building something real will. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe he didn't, because this version of me wasn't asking, waiting, or negotiating for space in my own future. The next 2 weeks were exactly what you'd expect when someone realizes they've lost control. First came anger. He told everyone I was abandoning him. Our friends. His friends. Anyone who would listen. The story changed depending on the audience. Sometimes I was career-obsessed. Sometimes I was cold. Sometimes I was throwing away love for money. He posted vague things online about people who only care about success and forget what really matters. He never said my name. He didn't need to. Then came bargaining. What if you commute? He asked one night, standing in the doorway while I packed boxes. 3 hours isn't that bad. You could come back on weekends. That's not a life, I said. Then I'll visit. We can do long distance. You said if I leave, we're over? I was emotional. So am I. We can make it work. I looked at him. Can we? He didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. He didn't want me. He wanted the version of me that stayed. Then came sadness. Real, quiet sadness. He stopped arguing, stopped posting, stopped trying to win. Instead, he watched me pack, organize, and move through the apartment like it was already behind me. I don't understand, he said one night, sitting on the edge of the bed, how you can just let this go. I'm not letting it go, I said. I'm choosing something else. You're choosing something without me. I'm choosing something you refuse to be part of. His voice broke a little. I thought you loved me. I do. Then why isn't that enough? I looked at him for a long time before answering. Because love without respect turns into something smaller. He didn't argue with that. He couldn't. Moving day came faster than I expected. Boxes stacked. Furniture gone. Echoes where there used to be noise. Derek wasn't there. He had gone to Natalie's place the night before. He had already blocked me on everything except email. For logistics, he said. I didn't fight it. Didn't ask him to stay. Didn't ask him to say goodbye. The drive to Millbrook was long and calm. No music, no calls, just road. Somewhere between the city fading behind me and the town rising ahead, I realized something that felt almost like relief. I hadn't lost him. I had finally stopped losing myself. Millbrook was supposed to feel like exile. That was how Derek had described it. A place where ambition went to die. A town too small for people like us. Too ordinary, too far from everything that mattered. But when I arrived, it didn't feel like punishment. It felt like air. My rental house was a 3-bedroom craftsman with a porch, a yard, and old trees that moved softly in the wind. In the city, that kind of space would have been impossible unless I wanted a mortgage that felt like a prison sentence. Here, it was normal. The first morning, I woke up before sunrise and stood in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, watching lights spread across the backyard. No sirens, no elevator doors, no Derek sighing because I had an early meeting. Just peace. My new office was even better than promised. State-of-the-art labs, open engineering floors, a team of 50 people who were sharp, hungry, and excited to build something that mattered. On my first day, my director shook my hand and said, "We've been waiting for you." Not tolerating me, not humoring me, waiting for me. That sentence stayed with me longer than I expected because for years, I had mistaken being included for being valued. The work was intense, long days, hard decisions, pressure from executives, problems that arrived faster than we could solve them. But I loved it. I loved the whiteboards covered in ideas, the late meetings where someone would suddenly solve what had been stuck for days, the responsibility, the trust, the feeling that my voice didn't need to fight for space in the room. I was building something, not just a product, a life. And Millbrook kept surprising me. There were good restaurants, not $20 cocktails with smoke poured over them for decoration, but warm places where the owner remembered your name after 2 visits. There was a Saturday farmers market where people asked how I was settling in and actually waited for the answer. There were outdoor concerts in the summer, hiking trails 10 minutes from my house, a gym where nobody cared what brand your leggings were, and neighbors who left soup on my porch when they heard I had worked 3 late nights in a row. It was not the life Derek had mocked. It was the life he had never bothered to see. 3 months in, my first quarterly bonus hit. $40,000. I stared at the deposit, remembering Derek saying, "Money isn't everything," without ever asking what money might allow us to build. Security, options, freedom, a future that didn't depend on performing success for other people. By month 4, I stopped renting and bought a house. A gorgeous 4-bedroom colonial on 2 acres for $425,000. In our old city, it would have cost millions. I remember standing in the empty living room after closing, keys in my hand, sunlight across the hardwood floor, and thinking, he called this boring. Then the messages started. Not from Derek at first. From Jessica. "Hey, Brianna, hope you're doing okay. Random question. Derek said you took some new position. He's been weird about it. Is everything all right?" I didn't respond. Then Natalie. "Brianna, can we talk? Derek's been struggling. Maybe you two should talk things through." Ignored. Then Derek's mother, Margaret, who had always been kinder to me than he deserved. "Brianna, honey, I don't understand what happened. Derek says you chose your career over him. That doesn't sound like you." "That one," I answered. "Hi, Margaret. Derek decided he wouldn't even consider moving for my career advancement. I respected his choice and made mine. I hope he's well." She wrote back within minutes. "He didn't tell me it was a career advancement. He said it was basically a lateral move to nowhere." I read that twice, then closed the email. I didn't correct the whole story. I didn't send screenshots. I didn't defend myself to everyone he had misled. Not every lie needs your immediate response. Sometimes life exposes it better than you ever could. And 6 months after I moved, it did. My company held a launch party for our first major product out of the Millbrook facility. Project Phoenix. The name was almost too perfect. We had worked brutal hours to get it ready. My team delivered ahead of schedule. The executives flew in. Industry press covered it. There were speeches, photos, champagne, the kind of recognition I used to imagine while pretending I didn't care. The next morning, our official LinkedIn post went live. There I was in the photo, standing with my team, wearing a navy blazer, smiling like someone who had finally stepped into the room she was meant to lead. Caption: proud to lead this incredible engineering division as we launch Project Phoenix. Amazing what we've accomplished in 6 months at our Millbrook facility. Within hours, my messages exploded. Former colleagues congratulated me. Recruiters reached out. Industry contacts shared the post. And then Derek emailed. Subject line: division head. When were you going to tell me you were a division head? No hello? No apology. Just entitlement. I didn't respond. 2 hours later. Brianna, please, I just saw the company website. The posted salary range for that position, is that real? Still nothing. Then another. I looked up the house you bought. It's beautiful. Another. Natalie drove through Millbrook last week. She said it's actually really nice. Then finally, I made a mistake. Please talk to me. I love you. We can work this out. I stared at that last line longer than the others. Not because it moved me, because I realized how late it was. He loved me after the title, after the salary range, after the house, after someone else told him the town was nice, after the life he mocked started looking better than the one he chose. By the end of the week, the apologies started spreading. Natalie wrote, Brianna, Derek just told us about your actual role. We had no idea. He made it sound like you were taking some random job in the middle of nowhere. I'm sorry. Jessica's message came next. I owe you an apology. Division head is incredible. Congratulations. I wouldn't have judged without knowing the full story. Even a few of Derek's colleagues reached out after seeing the post and connecting the timeline. But the message that stayed with me came from Derek's father, a quiet man who rarely involved himself in drama. Brianna, Margaret told me what happened. I run a small construction company, so I understand business decisions. You made the right call. Don't look back. P.S. Derek doesn't know I'm reaching out. His mother and I are disappointed in how he handled this. I sat alone in my beautiful house and read that message 3 times. Then I put my phone face down. Outside, the trees moved in the evening wind. Inside, nothing hurt the way it used to. The truth had finally arrived without me begging anyone to believe it. Derek had called my future boring. Now he wanted back into it. I didn't respond to his emails. Not the first one, not the 5th, not the one where he finally typed, I'm sorry. Because apologies are easy when the outcome changes. What matters is who someone is when they think nothing will. 2 weeks after the LinkedIn post, he showed up. Of course he did. It was a Saturday morning. I was at a small coffee shop downtown, the kind with wooden tables, sunlight through wide windows, and a barista who already knew my order. I had just opened my laptop when the bell above the door rang. Then I heard his voice, Brianna. I looked up, and there he was. Derek, standing a few feet away like a version of himself I almost recognized. Gone were the tailored blazers and polished shoes. He wore jeans, a plain sweater. Clean, simple, almost careful. Like he had studied this town and tried to dress accordingly. Like he thought blending in would make it easier to be accepted. Hi, he said. Can I sit? I looked at him. Really looked. Not the man I used to love, but the man who had laughed at my future in front of a table full of people. The seat's free, I said finally. He sat down slowly. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he exhaled. I had to come. You didn't. I did. You wouldn't answer my emails. Because there's nothing to discuss. That's not true. It is. He leaned forward, hands clasped, eyes searching my face like he was trying to find something familiar. I love you, he said. There it was. Not the apology. The shortcut. You didn't make a mistake, I said calmly. His brow furrowed. What? You made a decision. I didn't know. You didn't ask. He swallowed. I didn't know how much money you'd make, or what the town was actually like. You didn't know because you didn't care to know. That's not fair. Isn't it? I took a sip of my coffee, letting the words settle. Derek, you called me selfish. You let your friends call me toxic. You laughed when they joked about me redesigning barns. I was upset. And now you're here because you found out I'm making $600,000. That's not why. Then why didn't you come 3 months ago? 6 months ago? He hesitated. I needed time. You needed information. His shoulders dropped slightly. I see it now, he said. The house. The community. Your success. We could have an amazing life here. I am having an amazing life here. The words landed clean, without anger, without bitterness, just truth. Without me, he finished quietly. That was your choice. He leaned closer, voice softer now. Let me fix it. I'll move here. I can start over. I've already looked into it. There's demand for designers, wealthy clients, new builds. I let out a small breath. You researched it. He froze. After finding out about the money. It's not about the money. 2 weeks ago, you posted about small-town people with small-town minds. His face went pale. You saw that? Natalie sent it. I was angry. You were honest. His eyes dropped. You think you're better than people here, I continued. You'd be miserable, and eventually, you'd make me miserable again. I've changed. No, your circumstances changed. His eyes filled. Real tears. Not dramatic. Just late. I understand now, he whispered. What I lost. I studied him for a long moment, and I believed him. Not about loving me, but about understanding. The problem was, understanding doesn't reverse damage. I believe you, I said. His head lifted slightly, hope flickering. But it doesn't change anything. The hope collapsed just as quickly. Brianna, please. You don't want me, I said gently. You want the life you think my success can give you. That's not true. It is. I stood up. He followed instinctively. Please don't walk away like this. I'm not walking away, I said. I already did. And just like that, it was over. Or at least I thought it was. Because when emotional appeals didn't work, Derek tried something else. A week later, I received a letter from a lawyer. Formal, cold, carefully worded. He was claiming I owed him financial compensation for damages caused by the dissolution of our relationship under false pretenses. I actually laughed out loud, so loudly that my neighbor knocked on the door to make sure I was okay. The argument was almost impressive in its creativity, that I had deliberately concealed the true nature of my job offer, that my lack of transparency had caused him to make a decision without full information, that he had suffered emotional and financial damages as a result. I hired a lawyer the same day. Her response was surgical. I had attempted multiple times to discuss the opportunity. He had refused to engage. He had explicitly stated the relationship would end if I took the job. My success did not constitute deception. No damages were owed. Case closed. But Derek wasn't done. He tried another angle, claimed we had a verbal agreement about shared future assets since we were engaged. Said I had broken that agreement by making a unilateral decision. That failed too, because the same statement he thought gave him leverage. If you leave, we're over, had already destroyed any claim to a shared future. Then came social media. Posts about financial manipulation, about partners hiding information, about toxic independence. He never said my name. He didn't have to. People knew. And this time they didn't take his side. One of his former colleagues commented, "Didn't you refuse to even discuss the job with her?" Another, "You literally said money wasn't important." And then Jessica, the same Jessica who laughed at me at that dinner, wrote, "I was there. You shut her down every time she tried to talk about it. This isn't financial abuse. You made a choice without getting all the information. Own it." Everything shifted. Not because I won, because I didn't have to fight anymore. The truth had caught up, and Derek, for the first time, had nowhere left to hide. It's been a year since I left. A year since I packed my life into boxes, drove 3 hours north, and chose something Derek couldn't even be bothered to understand. Millbrook doesn't feel like a small town anymore. It feels like mine. The facility is thriving. My team just launched a second product that's already being called a breakthrough in our space. We expanded faster than projected, hired more engineers, took on bigger contracts. My total compensation this year hit $625,000. Not that it matters the way people think it does, because the number was never the point. What matters is what that number gave me. Stability, choice. A life that doesn't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. I bought a second property, a small cabin by the lake, 20 minutes from town. It's peaceful there, no signal sometimes, just water, trees, and the kind of stillness that feels full instead of empty. And somewhere along the way, I met someone. His name is Adrian. He's a local veterinarian. Smart, grounded, the kind of man who listens fully before he speaks. He doesn't care about brands, doesn't measure life in appearances, and once told me, very casually, that he would move anywhere if it meant building something real with the right person. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. That was the difference. We started slow. No rush, no pressure. Just two people who understood what it meant to choose each other without conditions. Meanwhile, Derek stayed in the city. From what I heard through the quiet, indirect channels that always exist, things didn't go the way he expected. He lost clients during the months he couldn't stop talking about our breakup. Some of his friends grew tired of the narrative. Natalie stopped defending him. Jessica stopped answering his calls. Turns out when the story stops working, the audience leaves too. Then, 1 month ago, he sent one last email, different from the others. No urgency, no manipulation, just honest. Brianna, I know you've moved on. I've seen the photos. He seems like a good man. I wanted to say something without expecting anything back. I finally understand what I lost. Not just the life, not just the opportunity. Though I won't lie, that part stings. I lost someone who was willing to build a future. And I was too focused on protecting a version of my life that wasn't even that good. You were right. I didn't want you. I wanted a lifestyle. I thought that lifestyle was here, in the city, in the noise, in the image. I didn't realize life could be different, better. I'm sorry I didn't even listen when you tried to share your excitement. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Derek. I read it once, then again. Then I sat there for a while, staring at the screen. Not angry, not hurt, finished. And finally I replied, Derek, thank you for the apology. I appreciate it. I am happy. I hope you find your happiness too. Brianna. That was it. No reopening doors. No lingering questions. Just closure. A week later, I was back in the city for a conference. Same skyline, same noise, same energy that used to feel like everything. Now it just felt loud. After the conference, I ran into Margaret and Derek's father at a restaurant. They recognized me immediately. Brianna, Margaret said, standing up, would you join us for coffee? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. We sat together, 3 people connected by a story that had already ended. We owe you an apology, she said quietly. We raised Derek to value the wrong things. Status, appearances, what people think. Her husband nodded. We didn't realize how much that shaped him until all of this happened. I shook my head gently. You don't owe me anything. We do, he said. You made the right decision, both professionally and personally. That word again. Decision. Not mistake, not accident. Choice. He's in therapy, Margaret added softly, trying to understand why he couldn't see past his assumptions, why he wouldn't even listen. I smiled a little. I'm glad he's getting help. Margaret studied me for a moment. Are you happy? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Your job? Incredible. The town? Better than I imagined. And him? I thought of Adrian, of calm mornings, easy conversations, no competition, no performance. Exactly what I didn't know I needed. Margaret smiled. Good, truly. As we stood to leave, Derek's father shook my hand. For what it's worth, we would have been proud to have you as family. I met his eyes. Thank you. And as I walked out of that restaurant, back into a city that used to define my life, I realized something simple. I didn't miss it. Not the place. Not the version of me who stayed small to keep someone else comfortable. Not the relationship that only worked if I compromised who I was becoming. Here's what I learned. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Derek showed me that he valued comfort over growth, image over reality, control over partnership. He didn't want to build something with me. He wanted me to fit into something he had already decided. And when I didn't, he called it selfish. If you're ever in that position, don't shrink. Don't dim your future to make someone else feel secure. Don't sacrifice something real for someone who won't even have a conversation about it. Because the right person won't ask you to choose between love and your future. They'll build it with you, even if it means starting somewhere unexpected. Even if it means a boring small town. Especially then.